All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, we are live in full effect right here, right now, and we got No Limit Records' finest. We got Big Court right here, live on the line. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, my brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just trying to survive, you know what I mean? I gotta ask, how's everything on your end, man? I heard that the United States is slowly starting to open back up after this terrible pandemic, man, so I'm glad to see you guys are going back to normal.
Oh man, me too, man. I'm in California, so they just opened up a few, I think maybe a week ago or so. So, having to retrain myself, man, and don't have to wear the mask everywhere. Even though I'm kind of still sticking to it, but yeah, man, it feels good to be able to get out and kind of, meander normally.
I most definitely agree, man. It's weird how after just with only a couple of years, you know what I mean, and you get so used to something that like when you go back into normal society, you're kind of like, damn, man, like this doesn't feel right. I feel like I should be wearing this mask. It just shows how much the government really has control over us.
Right, right. Well, and then too, you take small things for granted too. I mean, think about it. We get so used to everyday life and going about our lives that before last year we didn't even think about just simply being able to go to the store or being able to go in a restaurant or be able to just be around people or not wear a mask. So it kind of gives us a refocus. You know what I mean?
But I want to take you back to the beginning of your amazing career within the entertainment industry, man. And the first thing I gotta ask, man, is like what actually inspired you to get into music initially, man? Because your career goes right back to the early '90s, and you have such a luxurious one at that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what, man? I think just coming up in a musical household. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and my mom used to listen to a lot of big band, Earth, Wind and Fire, Confunction, Cameo, stuff like that. So I used to DJ for my mother on the weekends. So I always had an affinity for music, but I think it's when I first heard rap, primarily gangster rap. The first gangster rap record that I ever heard was Ice-T, Squeeze the Trigger. And before that, prior to that, I had heard, you had Run DMC with Walk This Way and Beastie Boys and Fat Boys, which was kind of like a novelty. But when I heard that Ice-T, it just did something to me. So just really being a fan of the music, and as I started getting older, I used to be an artist. I could draw really well. And I think just being an artist and being able to draw, and I would write my mother poetry and stuff like that. I think it was just a natural progression to transition into some type of written expression from that point. But it was really just, man, hearing Ice-T and WA, Eazy-E, and really just getting, into that hip hop scene. And I felt like it was something I could do, and I always had a way with words anyway and a gift of gab, so it all went together. So that's really what inspired me.
And also, as well, you were actually known as Master P's right-hand man and protege. I was wondering, how did yourself and Master P initially get connected? And of course, what was it like just working alongside him over there at No Limit Records?
Well, I initially hooked up with P back in '95. I think it was '95, '96. I have to get the years, one of those years. But basically, man, I was just a local artist with my guy Cisco. I was a part of a group called CCG. And, I just had big dreams, man. And, I didn't want to stay local. So I ended up just sending my tapes out to, any record company that would pay attention to me. And, I bugged P to death. You know what I mean? I filled up his voicemail. And finally, I think just me being consistent and me getting on his nerves, he gave me a shot. Excuse me. He listened to the tape. And we went from there. He put us on Down South Hustlers, and then, him and I cultivated a relationship that's been, 26 years. So, I'm an only child. So, I mean, I've been lucky and well, I should say blessed that, P has served as that big brother that I never had, you know what I mean? So, our relationship has always ran deeper than music and just no limit. That's my brother, you know what I mean? So, so it's been, I trip on that from time to time. Like I never take for granted, because he's one of my best friends. I never take for granted, having that relationship and having that access. But I forget sometimes that he's, this mogul, you know what I mean? Like I forget because he's just Percy to me. He's just Pete. He's my homeboy, you know what I mean? So, but, that's how we hooked up with him, man, from Kansas City, me and Cisco. I just having bigger dreams than where we were, and it was just that thing of just thinking outside the box. You know, I didn't want to just be local, and this is before social media. You know, so it wasn't, you know, it wasn't just instant like that. Like you actually really had to try to get a record deal and contact people and research and do the groundwork and all of that. So I just wanted something bigger for myself at the end of the day. That's what prompted me to reach out to him.
And also, just going back to Down South Hustlers for a moment, I think that record actually went gold, if I'm not mistaken. I believe you received a gold plaque for that.
I did, yeah, yeah. We were on the song with Masterpiece of the Shocker. We did the song R.I.P., and that was my first gold record. Yes.
I gotta say, man, how did that feel actually just receiving that gold plaque so early on in your career? Because if I'm not mistaken, that was like your first couple years actually at No Limit Records, when you actually received that plaque.
Yeah, yeah. It was. You know, if I can be honest, you know, I think when you know, I was young. I mean, I'm still young, but I was a kid, and I was, you know, just. It was, you know, you don't really stop and pay attention to those things till you look back on it and get older. It was because, you know, I'm on the grind, so I'm looking for the next thing. I'm like, okay, you know, prior to that, it's just I want to get a record deal. I want to get on. Okay, cool, I'm on. Okay, I do a record and it goes gold. But now I'm thinking, okay, but that's a compilation. I want a gold record from my own, you know, from my own record. Then you want a platinum one, so you're always chasing that next thing. And I think that comes from just, you know, being young, youthful ignorance. You know, as you get older, you learn how to slow down and really take it all in and appreciate it. So, I mean, I always appreciated it, but it was, you know, it was just, I gave it to my mother, you know what I mean? Like, I got the plaque and gave it to my mom.
And also, as well, after No Limit Records, you actually started your own label called D-Boy Records. I was wondering, what made you decide to start your own label? And of course, if that label is still around today, like, who's currently signed to you?
Oh, man, that's crazy. You did your research, huh? Yeah, I started that in, like, I think it was 98, 99. And basically, what I did with that was an independent label that I had, and he basically finagled a situation to where he basically used his influence to have a lot of the one-stops and independent distributors to basically pay me up front for whatever albums that I had. So if I got 50,000 units pressed up, because of his influence, they paid me $7 a CD out the gate, you know. So that was something that he did for me. You know, that was way back then. But no, that label actually, that label went defunct probably early 2000s after my Kansas City Chief album, because I pivoted. I transitioned and I moved to LA and I started getting into movies and different things like that. And as far as I was concerned at that point, I was kind of done with music. So, but yeah, that was definitely an era. D-Boy Records.
Hey man, most definitely, and it's understandable as well, especially if you're moving to a whole new location. And honestly, like California is definitely the place to get into movies. I'll tell you that. That's pretty much like the movie capital of the world.
Right. Right, and yeah, and that's what it was, man. It was just, again, it all started from me just being a young precocious kid in the hood with dreams of stardom. You know what I mean? So, you know, I experienced a lot of things young, you know, and early, both in life, in the streets, and in the entertainment business. So, you know, I was like, yeah, it's something bigger for me. You know, I made some cool strides as an artist. You know, I had some regional success, but you know, I wanted the mega stardom. You know what I mean? And you know, one thing leads to another. So once I got to Hollywood, I realized that okay, being in front of the camera is cool, but the real power is behind the camera. So that was a whole other thing that I had to learn and find my footing with. But yeah, you have to go to where the game is being played, which is why I moved to LA. You know, about 20 years ago.
And also, as well, man, going into the movie side of things here for a moment, in 2005, you were actually producer and actor for the film Young American Gangsters, man. I was wondering, what was it like working on that film? And of course, what actually made you decide to just get into the whole acting thing? Because I know you said after that you were kind of done with music, but what really made you decide to get into acting itself?
I think the same thing that started with how I got into music. I think it's just, having that artistic foundation. It started with me, drawing pictures and writing poems. Then I started writing raps and performing. So now, when you're doing raps and you're doing videos and any type of spoken word, to some degree, you're getting into a character for that moment or for that song or for that piece. So it was another transition, just going into acting. And how I did that, man, to be honest with you, when I got to LA, I did a lot of independent movies. I did a movie with CC Peniston called Don't Touch If You Ain't Prayed. It was like a faith-based movie. I did another movie called Saturday. I did like a lot of independent flicks. And just from being on set, I was just asking questions. And I would just be watching, like, oh, okay, why do they do that? Oh, they got these lights for that. Okay, they did that last time. Oh, okay, why they have these cameras like that? And I had a little money, on top of that, my money was straight. So I just got to the point as I started learning the politics of filmmaking and all of that. I said, oh, okay, cool. I don't want to be auditioning, for other people all the time. Let me start creating my own movies and my own content because I have the monetary resource to do so. And now I could cast myself however I want to cast myself. And so that was what, precipitated that whole idea to get into the movie production side of it. And I ended up putting up my own $300,000 to shoot that movie. And I casted it with myself and Cat Williams and Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. Cat Williams was a close friend of mine at the time. And, funny story, bro. I faked it through that whole movie, meaning that because I was the executive producer, I was expected to know a lot of the technical aspect of it. Now, looking back on it, I really don't know why, but I was, because executive producer usually is just that, the money, the business part of it. But I was playing producer as well. And I remember a lot of the people on the set, they would kind of defer to me and ask me technical questions, and I would kind of like fake it and be like, yeah, so what do you guys think? And they would give me the answer, and I'd be like, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I say we do that. But to be honest with you, I didn't have the information, so I did that through the whole movie. So it was a learning curve for me as well, even with the distribution part of it. I ended up flying over to Cannes Film Festival in Nice, in France, just to acquire distribution for that movie, just to get over there and end up getting a distributor that was literally around the corner from my house in Encino, California. So, go figure. But yeah, I wouldn't trade any of those experiences, man. And they panned out for me as well. That's why I tell people half the battle is just showing up. You know what I mean? All you have to do is just show up and try. And the rest of the stuff, it'll work its way. You just do your part, and the rest will work itself out.
And going back to as well, when you said you were faking it through the movie, like, did anybody ever actually kind of like catch on to it a little bit, or was everyone kind of just like, oh man, this guy knows a lot? But like, did they ever catch on?
Man, they're not gonna catch on to it. I mean, I was an actor at that point, and I was a hustler too, so I know how to keep the poker face. I know what to say and what not to say. So nobody down. Let them tell it. I was a bona fide film producer. You know what I mean? So I knew enough to fake it. I mean, people skate through school and don't know how to read all the time. So, I mean, we shot for about 2 weeks, and I was able to kind of, pull it off. But it was a good experience, man. It was a good time in my life too.
And also, as well, I read that you actually funded another one of your movies, titled "Steal Here," featuring Mopreme Shakur, Tupac's brother. I was wondering, how did yourself and Mopreme get connected? And of course, what was it like just acting alongside fellow hip hop artists like Mopreme?
Yeah, that was actually the same movie. I had just switched the titles, but that's the same movie. Mopreme, I'm trying to think, how did I connect? I can't remember how I connected with Mopreme. I don't remember, but he was dope, man. He was a great dude, good dude, real dude. You know what I'm saying? East Coast dude, New York dude, straight to the point, solid. Me and Mopreme hit it off out the gate. You know what I mean? I haven't talked to him in a minute, but yeah, he was a good dude, man. He was professional. You know what I mean? He showed up on set. He did everything he was supposed to do. He actually did a song on the soundtrack. So yeah, that was dope. And I knew that I was in the company of, I knew who I was in the company of at the time. You know what I mean? I mean that's Tupac brother. So yeah, he was a good dude.
I interviewed him about a year and a half ago, man. I gotta say, he's probably one of the most humblest individuals I ever had the opportunity to meet, man. Like, he's been through a lot of terrible traumas in his life, man, but he remains
Hmm.
humble through it all, man. So definitely, shout out to Mopreme Shakur.
Absolutely.
And also, as well, man, you actually had the opportunity to work with the late great Debo on the movie The Sesh. I was wondering, what was that experience like working alongside Lester?
Oh man, that was man. Rest in peace to Tiny. That was my big brother for real, for real. I've always said that coming out here to Hollywood, Tiny and my business partner Jasmine Lewis, they are two of the most. I would say they have advocated for me the most out here in Hollywood and LA more than anyone. Tiny man, they loved him to death. Big teddy bear. He could turn into Debo. He really was Debo. That's the thing about it. Like he was a born again Christian, real nice guy. But I mean, he really was Debo. I mean, I've watched him Debo people in real life when necessary. But man, he was a good dude, man. It was always good working with Tiny because he treated me like a little brother, and he received me and my family, embraced my family as well. And he made me a part of a few projects he was doing because at the time that Tiny passed, we had a TV pilot. He had his own TV show that was getting greenlit, and he made, I was his little brother on it, so he made me a part of that, and he made me an EP, executive producer. So he was always teaching me. He always would give me jewels, both on the camera and behind the camera. Whenever we worked together, he would always, like, even when we did, I got the hook up too. He had told me, he said, man, you got the physicality like The Rock. He said, man, always use your physicality to your advantage. Don't use guns. Use your hands. Because you're a big dude. Use that on camera. That's always more menacing. That's better than using the gun. When it's called for that. So he would give me little, tips and techniques about being a big guy and taking on that role. Because you got to think it wasn't many. It's not many, especially built black actors. You know what I'm saying? Because they're all in a lane. You had Tiny. He was getting older, but you had him to Debo. You had Michael John White, who is on the martial arts action side. Then you had Terry Crews, who was on the, physical comedy side. Then you have The Rock. Really past that, it's not too many built black actors. So, so he would give me little jewels like that. So yeah, that was my brother, man. He was good guy, good guy.
And also, as well, one last thing just pertaining to the film side of things, you were also featured on BET's five-part docu-series No Limit Chronicles. I have to ask you, what was that experience like for you being able to relive just your days at No Limit Records?
Oh man, that was dope, man. It was like coming full circle. You know what I mean? I applaud P, for putting that together because he allowed, of course, everybody to come on and tell their side, even opposing side. Even people that may or may not have something good to say, and he allowed it all. He said, "Hey, we gonna tell it like it is." So I think it was overdue. You know what I mean? But that's just kind of a precursor to the things that we have coming down the pipeline as it regards to No Limit. Because he still has his King of the South movie that will be, that'll be out soon. That's definitely in the works. So it was kind of a precursor to that. But everybody was man. No Limit. That's a movement. Like that's a lifestyle. That's a way of life. That's what everybody understands. Everybody subscribes to wanting to be a soldier and just the concept of No Limit. So the fans loved it. It was I think it was it broke a record. It was like the number one, or it was the most viewed something at BET during that time. So yeah, that was a great experience, man. And it's funny because they talked to me. I mean, they literally interviewed me for about 5 or 6 hours. And they used only probably about 2 minutes of it throughout the whole thing because they had so many people. But it was a great experience, man, and I'm glad the world got a chance to see it.
And also, as well, man, in 2018, you actually released a double album, Boomerang Volume 1 and 2. I have to ask you, what's the story and inspiration behind those phenomenal records? And of course, where can our listeners buy or stream themselves a copy of those two phenomenal projects today?
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. Well, that's when I circled back around to music. I created a label called TME, True Muscle Entertainment. And to be honest with you, man, I was inspired by QC. Shout out to Coach K and Pierre down in Atlanta with QC. I was watching what they were doing for Atlanta, for the Atlanta music scene of now, of that time, and still now, currently. And I was just really inspired. I was like, you know what, man, because we're in a digital age now, so it was very different from when I did D-Boy Records. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was still the physical copies and the distribution, one stops, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're in the digital era, so I was really just intrigued about how music was marketed, how it was consumed, and just wanted to really throw my hat in the ring. And also, most importantly, man, I wanted to create a platform for my city, for Kansas City, Missouri, and for the artists down there, because we have so much talent down there, and we have yet to really lock in a movement. Now understand, we've had moments. I mean, obviously we have Tech Nine and Strange Music. Salute to them. We have a lot of other artists down there, but I'm talking about a movement collectively, like Atlanta has done, like Houston, like LA, like Miami, like New York. And so I basically wanted to do my part and try to create a space where artists that are really serious and artists that are hungry and have the talent and really try to create that as a I wanted to be the no limit cash money of my city and try to bring that to fruition. And we had some success with Boomerang, because it was all artists that I was working with and still work with in some capacity. And we did well with that. So that was a great time, man. I felt like a kid all over again. I felt like a young guy just getting into the game again. I still had, I felt like Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, he can still shoot a free throw. He can still shoot it. He might not jump from the free throw and dunk no more, but he can still shoot, a 3-pointer or whatever the case may be. So that's what that was about, man. And I still have, that label TME, and I kind of have pivoted a little bit and focused more on the TV film side. But I'm always open to work with artists. Working with these artists nowadays is very difficult, very, very difficult. It's a whole different generation, whole different perspective and way of thinking, and it takes some patience, to say the least.
But I gotta ask you, man, what is next for the legendary Big Court, man? Because I do know that we only covered, I would say, a sliver of your legendary career within this interview, but I just have to ask you, like, what is next for you? Is there anything I happen to miss? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote while we still have you here live on the Canadian airwaves?
I mean, right now I'm focused on the Holding Court podcast. I initially got into doing radio podcasting, if you will. Me and Master P had a show called Doing the Most a few years back on Playboy Radio, and that's where I got the bug. So, now I created the Holding Court podcast with my co-producer, Ken Shea, producer Ken. And it's basically, if you take Drink Champs and Gangster Chronicles and Vlad TV and mix it all in one, we've already launched. We have episodes with Master P, Silk the Shocker, Jay Prince, Michael John White, Jasmine Lewis, Bosco 100, Gorilla Black, Little Easy E. We have a Flesh and Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony. We have a plethora of established talents and business people, and so that's really what I'm focused on right now, because, I think the message of the show, it's all about the message and behind the show, which is just documenting the journey. My thing is to inspire the world. That's my whole mission with everything that I have going, is to inspire the world and leave an imprint. So, that's my focus right now. And also, me and Jasmine Lewis, my production partner, we have a TV show called 12 that we developed, starring Sticky Fingers, Master P, herself. We got Dion Cole attached to it. It's going to be a really, really, really big show, something to rival Snowfall at Power or whatever. It's set in Kansas City as well, so we'll be doing that on a big level. And then also I have the healthy living products with me and Master P. We developed some healthy living snacks because P has all his products. He's gotten into, kind of taking the, I think, what's his name, Reginald Lewis approach in terms of getting into products. He's trying to be like Campbell Soup, or not Campbell Soup, but Campbell, the conglomerate, the company. So we developed a healthy product that we're going to be launching this summer together. And I'm in charge of that arm of his business. So, but it's something we're doing together. So right now, that's the priority, man. The TV show 12, the podcast, the Holding Court podcast, and these products coming.
And I gotta say, it most definitely sounds like a phenomenal year, man, for you guys, man. It sounds like you guys are not stopping, all gas, no brakes on this year, man.
Absolutely, man. It's a blessing, man. To being able to maintain and evolve up to this point. Of course, that's the thing about life, man. You have your ups and your downs, but you got to keep, life will always throw you curveballs, but curveballs can be hit. You know what I'm saying? So you keep swinging, and that's basically what I've had to do. You can still get to the Hall of Fame with base hits, so everything ain't a home run, but as long as you keep swinging. So, that's what we're doing, man. Like I said, the podcast, I'm really excited about that. I can't wait for the world to really, really, see what we've created and just where we take it from now, So, everybody listening, they can go to Holding Court Podcast. They can subscribe to that on YouTube, subscribe, like, and comment. We're on Spotify, iTunes, and all of that. And they can also follow Holding Court Podcast on IG, and also follow my IG. I am Big Court, and I got a book coming too. You know what I'm saying? So August is always telling me I should do a book. I got a book coming as well. So it's going to be kind of a autobiographical, kind of a self-help, motivational type book, because I have a hell of a story, to be very honest with you. So I just want to inspire the world. That's the whole mission of the Big Court brand.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Big Court, thank you for years, man, of not only music, but amazing movies, and just everything you do for the entertainment industry, man. I just want to say thank you for that, and also thank you for giving us a little bit of your time this evening.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, my brother. Thank you. I appreciate it. And kudos to you, man. You did your homework. You asked me actually some questions that that I hadn't been asked in a long time that I actually forgot about. So I appreciate you doing your due diligence, my brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate that, man. And I'm not going to lie, comments like that fuel me to keep doing what I'm doing there. So thank you so much, Court, for the positive feedback. And hopefully down the line, we can do this again sometime soon. And I can make sure I find other questions that that maybe you forgot about as well.
Yeah, absolutely, without question.
Most definitely, man. Thank you so much again, and definitely have yourself a wonderful night.
Okay, thank you, brother.